Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on the MJ sector. Have a bit of a cold coming on from the cold air outside, adjusting to the change in season, but not too bad. Should be good to go for this weekend and getting back into the normal routine once done traveling in a couple days. But checking in on things, we ended yesterday with a lot of bear flags on the hourly time frame, and that's how we ended today. We confirmed them to start the day today, and now another bear flag to end the day. The S&P 500 is seeing weakness. It really had a 180 turnaround where the bears took over today in response to manufacturing numbers, so some fundamental data leading to that weakness. And we're still patiently waiting for CGC to get oversold enough for me to personally be interested. So I got a couple questions on Twitter with people wondering, what kind of manipulation or what's going on to see a bounce with breaks of resistance in the short term, only for that to be squashed right back down. And honestly, that to me is not manipulation. That's just bear flags. Trend changes on shorter term timeframes with a lack of follow through means zoom out and look for the potential of a bear flag, and it's just hourly bear flags that keep forming. Think about it in the reverse psychology. So if we're in a bull market and we're consolidating, we see a breakout, we see a temporary top of that breakout, and we see slow, healthy consolidation. During that healthy consolidation, we have some profit taking going on, we have perhaps some brave shorts jumping into a position, and then we have a point where we reach and the bulls buy that dip, because they're looking to get in on consolidation. Any shorts have to cover when they realize, oh, that's as far as we're pulling back, and it's now a bull flag and we're heading up to recent highs, and then we see a bull break and see continuation. It's the exact opposite thing happening right now. We drop down to a lower low. With that lower low, some shorts are taking profit, some bulls are jumping in to play short-term oversold bounces. We get to a point where there's nobody left to buy the bounce, and bears are just waiting for hourly lower highs to either reestablish positions or add to positions, which just leads to another leg down. So the last 2 days look identical with and really it's more than the last 2 days, but just the drop, the bounce into the afternoon, the drop, bounce into the afternoon, the last 2 days really similar to each other. So we have a short-term resistance of 2207, but even if that level breaks tomorrow morning, we're just looking for an hourly lower high compared to the top of the bounce that we saw from yesterday. And then we're going to be looking right back down at the low of 2162. The hourly RSI is not oversold. What this does is it cools off the RSI. So traders like me who are being picky on this oversold bounce play, I'm not making any entries, and my bull volume is not being added to any of these bounces because of these bear flags. So the daily RSI is only just hitting 30, slight increase in bear volume. The 4-hour RSI is not oversold. So again, as I said in the video yesterday, give me hourly, 4-hour, daily, and weekly RSI oversold, and I'm interested in a bounce. And these keep cooling it off enough to keep me uninterested. And the hourly RSI dropped down first thing this morning, but cooled off. So essentially, we're just above oversold conditions on all these time frames that we're watching, and we can very easily see another leg down tomorrow. If we start weak and break 2162, we'll be looking at 21 psychological and then 20 after that. So in my opinion, I'm just remaining patient and patiently waiting for an entry. We're not really in too much of a free fall right now. This little bear flag on the daily cooled things off. If that bear flag didn't happen and every single day for the last 2 weeks was a lower high and we had pulled back this much, I would be more interested in an oversold bounce play. When you cool things off on any time frame, this is the same thing that's happening on the hourly, it just happened on the daily chart. So every time you see a little breather, the bears are taking a breather, they're catching their breath, and they're coming back with a vengeance even stronger to push to that lower low. So all these little bounces are just bears catching their breath. All the bulls that are going to try and play a bounce get in, and then the bears just push the price back down again. So as long as that's the pattern, bears have complete control, and until that changes, I am going to be sitting on the sidelines patiently waiting. I do anticipate I will be playing an oversold bounce if this weakness continues. I also feel that we're going to see the sector bounce as a whole again. There's certainly not a tick-for-tick correlation between the Canadian MJ names and the US MJ names, but I believe that CGC is going to have to set a temporary bottom and bounce to set a daily lower high, Anything under 25.41 will be a daily lower high, so we can bounce 10% and still easily be under that resistance level. And I do think it's going to require CGC bottoming temporarily in order to see any kind of short-term oversold bounce for all these other names to set daily lower highs. And we see many instances where individual names get their bounce going without the sector, and it's very short-lived. VFF was an example yesterday. We had Curaleaf today, had a bit of a bounce going that didn't really get any follow-through. So until we see the sector bounce as a whole, with the sector leaders joining in that bounce, I wouldn't expect any significant follow-through. Cron held on a little bit better today. We didn't break that low of yesterday, and that's a double bottom at this point, but a weak bounce. So Cron got its bounce going and got zero follow-through because the sector was not bouncing as a whole, in my opinion. So 922 broke, we saw a big upper wick, and then we dropped down right back to support. So 884 is a double bottom, and anything under 931 keeps the bears in full control. And the daily time frame is potentially just another little bear flag in a row here. Let's see if the 4-hour time frame, you could make the argument the 4-hour chart is a bit of a falling wedge. But the bulls would have to show up sooner rather than later. That's worth keeping an eye on, actually. So watch to see if that Cron 4-hour falling wedge ends up breaking. Taking extended hours off and looking at it on the hourly time frame. Keeping in mind that even if this is a valid falling wedge pattern, we could very easily see another leg down into the mid $8 range to bounce off support before we get a break. So while the falling wedge is a notable bullish pattern, when we have space like this, it certainly doesn't mean we're going to break bullish tomorrow, because we could very easily stay within this pattern for another day or two. So not as beat up as CGC on some time frames, although actually I take that back. Hourly is not as beat up, but everywhere else it is pretty much in line. Daily RSI is a little bit more oversold. 4-hour RSI is still oversold at this point. And 931 is our new resistance level. APHA continues to drop down. Daily 502 support has broken. So now the next support level that we're looking at is down at 455. So again, we are now looking back down towards where we were on the short attack. On the hourly time frame, we just continue to set lower highs and lower lows. Anything under 534 is a lower high on this current bounce attempt that's underway. Support is 492 and then down into the 450s. Daily RSI is just getting oversold. Weekly RSI is not oversold yet. And let's see the other time frames. Pretty much in line with where everybody else is. ACB double bottom at this point off of 405 support. So we saw a little bit of a bounce, a couple percent off of that level, but we closed right near it. If 405 breaks, it's 4 psychological and then 392 and just a lack of support under 405. So again, that would be a very notable break if that did take place. Keeping in mind that ACB is in a monthly downtrend, and there are a bunch of names that are not in a monthly downtrend. There's a handful of names, and the list is growing for names that are in a monthly downtrend. And again, the significance of that is that even if we see a big turnaround, and even if we see a 50% bounce in ACB, we will just be looking for a monthly lower high to be set. So that's going to be the narrative, even if we see daily trend changes and weekly trend changes in this sector into the fall, into the new year, whenever it happens, monthly lower highs are going to be the expectation. So we're just going to keep that in mind, keep that in the back of our heads while we continue to watch the sector. TLRY continues its free fall. Anything under 27.24 is just a lower high, 24 psychological support, and then we're just looking down at that all-time low. 2150 would be the next support level. After that, as the bears still have complete control on TLRY, and we have not seen a daily trend change since we started this drop almost 50% ago back in mid-August. Hexo, someone messaged me on Twitter wanting me to cover Hexo because they made a bearish entry on this equilibrium breaking bearish, and that was a good play. The support level breaking at 398 was your bear break, where you have our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high. I would be much more confident entering a bear play here than a bull play on this equilibrium because, again, the sector overall. If we see a bull break of this equilibrium and the sector is not bouncing as a whole, I would not expect follow-through. If we see a bear break and the sector remains weak, it's easy to stay confident there. So from that 398 break, we ended up dropping down a solid 8%. So even if you only get half of that move, you just made 4%, and that's a very solid trade. So congrats entering on that short. Didn't get a whole lot of follow through under 371, which is the bottom of our base at this point, but we're still certainly weak at this point. Anything on the hourly time frame under 401 is just a lower high. Solid bounce into the end of the day, but we need an hourly trend change for it to mean anything, and then we would just zoom out and look for a daily lower high compared to 434, even if we get that hourly trend change. VFF, so no follow through. We saw that notable divergence from what the sector was doing yesterday at the end of the day. And of course, wow, did we get a gap up open? I don't think we did, but either way, selling into that little strength because the sector had no strength to follow through. 942 was resistance. We rejected from 939, pulled back. Have we changed the hourly trend? The answer is no. So low, high, bulls trying for a higher low. And if they are able to hold 868 tomorrow morning and make their way back up towards $9, we will just be looking for a lower high compared to 939. Labs continued weakness. So again, another clear equilibrium, breaking bearish. 451 was the bear break. How about that follow through for the Labs bears? 27% in just 3 days of that break with huge bear volume. So just like that, we're extremely oversold. We're in a monthly downtrend here as well. And the next support level is down at 338. And then there's a little gap at 336. Bears in full control. Anything on the hourly time frame under the high of the day is just a lower high. And we need an hourly trend change to even zoom out and look for a daily lower high to take place. So now under the USMJ names, Curaleaf had a little bit of a bounce today. So I attempted to get a position for an oversold bounce yesterday, and I only got 12% of that position filled. So I sold that on that bounce today, which ended up being a very small amount of profit. But we're looking back down at the low of 701. The bulls have to hold 701 and break 768 to change this hourly trend. If we don't change that hourly trend, the bears keep full control. So hourly trend change, if it takes place, we look for the daily lower high. The bears are going to be sitting and waiting to jump on daily lower highs, and we have to see the hourly trend change for that to even be in the picture. If we don't, and we break 701, the next support level that we're going to be looking down at is not nearby. 675 would be the next level. CWeb. So CWeb had the inside bar bear break, and that's the wrong ticker. So CWeb had a big follow through for the bears, and we're now looking back down to the low of 1465. So looking at this on the weekly time frame, we lost the weekly uptrend with this little bear flag and confirmation, and now the monthly time frame, it's all about 1465. High, low, lower high. Potential play approaching off of 1465. We would have to drop 8% or so to get down to that level. The daily RSI is oversold, and the 4-hour and hourly really oversold as well. So if we were to break $16 into tomorrow, there's a potential play for that bottom fishing play off of that support. But again, you would have to, number one, be very confident playing oversold bounces. Number two, not be continuously eating red positions trying to play oversold bounces, because at that point, just stop and wait for daily trend changes at the bare minimum to be looking bullish. But it is something to be aware of as a key support is approaching. CL. So CL is a daily inside bar. Have we changed the hourly trend from that bounce? Again, those bounces at the end of the day just haven't had much follow through, but we have our low, high. Our higher low is 727, and the bulls must break 780 to change the hourly trend. If they pull that off, we zoom out to the daily, and we watch daily resistance of 851. So a more developed hourly trend change attempt than most individual names that we've currently looked at. And OH is going to be fairly similar, even though it did drop to a lower low today. We've got that key resistance 563. If we can't break that level, bulls aren't going anywhere. But if we do break that level, we zoom out and we look for a daily lower high compared to 663. TRUL, that base of support is definitely the level to be watching this week. And it's a descending triangle where you have your horizontal base of support and lower highs. And it's not going to be ideal to draw here, but I would draw it something like that. So lower highs on every bounce attempt. Anything under 1090 is just a lower high here, and then we're looking back down at 1050, and we would have to see a clear bull break of short-term levels. Have to break 1085 to increase the odds that 1050 support can hold, and then we have to get over the top of 1128, top of the last 5 trading days. So very clear support level being defended by the bulls. The question is, can they go on offense and break some short-term resistance levels to shift that momentum off of that support. IAN weakness continues, so daily lower highs and lower lows. How many times in the past? Well, we got it right here. 2, 4, 6 of the last 7 days. Pretty much we've closed at the low of the day. So there is no sign of a shift in momentum at this point. We are at extreme RSI levels. RSI under 20 on the 4 hour. It's on the hourly. It's pretty much out the window. It's meaningless at this point on the hourly time frame. And daily time frame RSI is down near the teens as well. When we do bounce, we'll just be looking for a lower high compared to 257. And that will cool off RSI levels in the short term. But again, this is one where it's just an absolute falling knife, and there's no real way to even position for a bounce right now because there's no levels to be playing off of. We do have 170 support, which is approaching, and then the all-time low is the next level. So aside from 170, there's no support nearby to be playing off of. So just patiently waiting and watching as the bears are in control. MedMen, daily inside bar, have to change the hourly trend. Low, high, higher low, have to break 196. If we do, we zoom out. We look for the daily lower high compared to 225. And we're in black dirt breakdown at those all-time lows. GTII, solid little bounce today, potentially a daily bear flag. We have not changed the hourly trend. So low, high of the bounce is 1136. Higher low is 1065, and bulls have to break 1136 tomorrow. So we do have a couple names that are trying to change their hourly trend. GTII, OHCL stand out for those potential hourly trend changes. But if they pull them off and the sector is still dropping down and we still have CGC weakness, then I wouldn't expect a whole lot of follow through, and it's possible that they just end up being daily bear flags. Best case scenario for any name that has an hourly setup like this is an hourly trend change into an oversold bounce and a green day across the sector. But again, we have to be cautious because S&P 500 weakness is creeping in, and that's going to have an impact on how low CGC can go on this current pullback. So that's where we stand, pretty much of the same scenario as yesterday, and all about the hourly trends and all about the daily trends. There is absolutely nothing wrong with saying I have no interest in even considering any bullish entry in this sector until the daily trend changes. And that is not going to happen anytime in the near term because every bounce attempt that we see from here, we will just be looking for a daily lower high to form. So that's where we stand. Hope you're well out there. We'll be watching for any shift in short-term momentum. But again, these CGC bounces, all they are doing is allowing for another leg down in the short term. We'll see if we get it tomorrow. And I would pretty much have to see a move towards 20 psychological tomorrow if I were going to be interested in an oversold bounce. And again, it's the kind of thing where even myself who likes oversold bounces, if I miss it, just going to look for that daily lower high, no FOMO, no rush, no nothing. And that's the way to patiently wait. So I appreciate you watching. Have a good day, do good things, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.